What's the biggest karma twist you've seen in a custody battle? Story 1. I went into that courtroom with a folder full of texts and a knot in my throat. My ex had spent 6 months painting me as the unstable mom. He brought in a sober coach who turned out to be his gym buddy, a neighbor who always saw wine bottles, she rented his Airbnb twice, and even a laminated behavior log of our 8-year-old's meltdowns after my parenting time. His closer, a dramatic claim that I slurred my words on every pickup. The judge asked if I had anything to add. I handed over one item I hadn't planned to use, my son's smartwatch. We bought it so he could message me when he got scared at Dad's noisy apartment. I hadn't listened to the voice memos because I felt like a snoop, but my attorney said, if he's weaponizing the child's behavior, the child gets a voice. We pressed play. You could hear my ex coaching. Say Mommy drinks in the morning. Say you don't feel safe at her house. I'll buy you that gaming pass, my son's small voice. But I like Mommy's pancakes. Him, colder. Do you want to live with me or lose your PlayStation? The room stiffened. My ex's lawyer tried to object for lack of foundation, but the metadata tied every clip to exchanges he'd already testified about. Then the judge asked if my son wanted to speak privately in chambers. He did. When they returned, the judge's tone had changed. I am issuing an immediate order. Temporary primary custody to the mother, supervised visits for the father, and a guardian ad litem to monitor compliance. My ex still tried to grandstand. She's an alcoholic. Ask the neighbor. The judge glanced at the smartwatch again and asked my ex to unlock his phone. He refused. So the judge allowed my attorney to subpoena the sober coach. 10 minutes later, we learned the coach had a side hustle, installing remote breathalyzer spoofers for DUIs. The coach had texted my ex a price list. I walked out shaking, not triumphant, just relieved. The twist came a week later when our son handed me a folded note he'd written for the judge but forgot to give. Please let me live where I don't have to lie. I mailed it to Chambers with a thank you. The court made the temporary order permanent, and the guardian ad litem recommended family therapy. Karma didn't roar. It whispered in my son's own voice. And the judge listened. Story 2. I'm the next-door neighbor. The person everyone forgets is on the other side of the fence when they rehearse their saint speeches. He was the guy who mowed in straight lines and practiced stable provider in a mirror. She was the exhausted nurse who kept odd shifts. He told the court she left the 7-year-old unattended to party. Truth was, she left for nights so other kids' moms lived. He insisted he was the calm parent. Then his girlfriend started a live stream, #WeekendVibes. She panned across their patio, loud music, red cups, a kiddie pool full of beer cans. The 7-year-old kept appearing in the background, jumping on a trampoline after midnight. Comments flew, "Where's that kid's mom? This is so unsafe." The girlfriend laughed and said, "Relax. The judge loves us." I watched the video go viral in the neighborhood Facebook group. Screenshots hit our HOA email. Someone noticed the timestamp matched a weekend the dad swore he'd kept a quiet home routine. Then a different clip surfaced. The girlfriend mocking the mom's scrubs. She says she saves lives but can't even save her relationship, while the kid begged to sleep and couldn't because the DJ speaker was rattling the fence. The mom never posted a word. She just arrived to pickups with snacks and a soft voice and left. At the next hearing, the dad's attorney waved a stack of affidavits from his friends. The judge didn't reach for them. She was looking at a projector. The court clerk had pulled the full live stream and its geotag. His own backyard. The comments included my HOA warning about quiet hours, which he'd replied to with a middle finger emoji. The judge paused at the part where the child covered his ears and said, "Please stop." He tried blame shifting. It was a special event. The judge's expression didn't move. Special events don't suspend parenting obligations. She ordered a home study and an immediate curfew, then asked if there were any mandatory reporters present. 2 nurses from the mom's unit stood. They'd come to speak to her character but didn't need to. The girlfriend, desperate, chimed in that she'd curate content better. The judge looked over her glasses. Ms. Influencer, consider curating your audience to 0 when a child is present. Temporary primary to the mom. The real twist came days later when the girlfriend posted a tearful apology, then tagged a brand. The brand dropped her in the comments. And the dad? He had to read those comments in parenting classes, word for word, to understand why content isn't a bedtime story. Story 3. I work in HR for a logistics company, and yes, I got subpoenaed into a custody case. The dad, our former warehouse supervisor, claimed he couldn't share custody because mom's schedule was erratic and his was fixed, indispensable. He produced a pristine calendar, every weekday 6 a.m., 3 p.m., never late, never absent. I looked at it and felt my left eye twitch. He'd been terminated 4 months earlier for falsifying timesheets. On the stand, he doubled down. I mentor a team of 20. My child needs structure. The judge asked if anyone could verify. His attorney called me, confident. I took a breath and opened our records. Your Honor, Mr. was suspended on May 2nd and terminated on May 15th for falsifying his punch-ins using a supervisor override code. We notified him in writing. The courtroom went quiet. His lawyer sputtered about retaliation. I produced the signed acknowledgement and a trail of emails where he begged for his job back and admitted he'd massaged time because daycare pickup. Then mom's attorney introduced screenshots where he bragged in a dad group that he was gaming the system to look busier in court. He'd attached a Canva template for professional schedules. The judge's face didn't change, but the tone did. Sir, you misrepresented your employment to this court. He tried to pivot. I'm in consulting now. We checked the LLC, registered 2 days after the hearing notice. No clients, no revenue. Meanwhile, mom's erratic schedule was actually a posted union bid. She produced 6 months of predictable shifts, childcare receipts, and a text thread where she offered him extra weekends he refused because they interfered with consulting. Here's the twist. When we pulled the old security footage related to his termination, another face kept popping up. His sister, clocking his badge for him at 5:59 a.m. She was also his character witness that day. Perjury and wage fraud don't play well with judges. The order flipped. Primary to mom, supervised for him, referral to the DA for the wage fraud, and a friendly reminder that children need truth more than structure. After court, Mom thanked me for ruining my Saturday to tell the truth. I told her the truth ruined itself. We just brought a light. Karma isn't mystical. Sometimes it's a time clock with a camera pointed right at your face. Story 4. I'm the dad. Not the villain, at least I didn't think so. My ex told the court I was controlling and obsessed, and she asked for sole custody. I fought back hard. Too hard. I cataloged everything. Missed bedtimes, snack choices, who texted first. I looked like a man chasing a fly with a flamethrower. Midway through, she dropped a bomb. A paternity test. Our son was 3 when we split, and I'd never questioned he was mine. The test said he wasn't. I felt the floor vanish. She smirked like she'd won. He's attached, but biology matters, her lawyer said, hinting I should back off. My attorney stared at me. What do you want to do? I asked for a recess and walked the hallway until my heartbeat slowed. Every memory that mattered wasn't genetic. First steps on my chest, firefly hunts, the word Dada yelled at a dishwasher. When we went back in, I said, I'm not giving up. I'm asking the court to recognize me as his psychological parent. I'm also requesting the court compel disclosure of the biological father and add him as a party. Because if biology suddenly matters, it matters for support too. You could feel the temperature shift. The judge asked my ex if she'd known. She had, and had kept the bio father a secret to use this reveal as a weapon. The guardian ad litem recommended interviewing our son about his attachments. He drew a family, me, him, a stick dog with my ridiculous eyebrows. The judge scheduled an evidentiary hearing on de facto parentage. The bio father showed up angry and broke, with a lawyer who kept saying the word donor like a shield, but the messages didn't help him. He'd texted my ex about dodging responsibility and letting the other guy pay for daycare since he's dumb enough to love a kid that isn't his. The judge's voice went cold. Here's the twist. My ex thought the DNA paper would cut me out. Instead, it cut open the truth she'd buried. The court recognized me as a legal parent and ordered shared custody between me and not her. The judge granted me primary, limited her time pending therapy, and established child support from the biological father to the child, reimbursing arrears for the years she'd concealed him. My ex sobbed that I stole her plan. I carried my son out, his arms around my neck, whispering, "Do I still get pancakes on Saturdays?" Karma wasn't the test. Karma was the answer I gave it. Story 5. I was Aunt Backup Plan, the relative everyone loves for birthday cakes and hates when paperwork appears. My sister and her ex had been circling the drain for years, using their 10-year-old as a baton in a relay of court dates. Each swore the other was unfit. I stayed neutral. I kept snacks in my glove box and a sleeping bag in my trunk for emergency school pickups. Then Grandma died. At the funeral, my sister walked in late, sunglasses on inside, ex trailing with a smug smile. He'd just filed for emergency custody, alleging my sister's mental health crisis. The pastor started the eulogy, then glanced at me. "Your mother left a letter to be read at the repast." She was very specific. Everyone groaned because of course she was. After the service, we gathered around potato salads and grief. The pastor pressed play on Grandma's recorded message. She was in her hospice bed, voice thin but aimed. "If you're hearing this, I've gone ahead. I raised 2 smart children who forgot kindness. I also kept receipts." She asked the videographer to zoom on a folder. Inside were notarized statements from the school counselor, the pediatrician, and the neighbor whose ring cam had captured late-night drop-offs without coats in winter. My sister and her ex, both guilty. Then Grandma turned to the camera like a judge. "I made a temporary guardianship designation 3 months ago when both of you failed to show for the school's safety meeting." It names the person who actually shows up. The video cut to me, mortified, signing a paper at Grandma's kitchen table while she scolded me for apologizing. The room erupted, my sister shrieking betrayal, her ex calling it illegal from beyond the grave. The attorney Grandma had pre-hired stood up at the buffet, because of course she had, and handed the judge's stamped acknowledgement of the temporary guardianship, valid until a custody review already calendared for the following week. The judge apparently had met my mother. Here's Karma's blade. At the hearing, the guardian ad litem relayed our niece's quiet request. "Can I stay where the grown-ups don't yell?" She'd packed her backpack with a toothbrush and 3 drawings of my dog. The court extended my temporary custody and ordered both parents into a high-conflict program with no direct contact. My sister wouldn't look at me for a month. Then she came over with a bag of clementines and an apology that sounded like a splinter being pulled. "Mom was right. You showed up." The ex tried to smear me online, but the school posted a photograph of Aunt Reader running library hour, him tagged by accident because our town is tiny. Comments poured in, "We've seen who's there." The judge made it permanent. Parents on a schedule, me as standby legal guardian. The twist stung and healed at once. My mother managed our family one last time, and karma came written on her favorite yellow legal pad. Story 6. I'm the e-filing clerk, the person who calls when your PDF is upside down or your Exhibit A is mysteriously a selfie. He strode in with the confidence of a TED Talk, claiming Mom was alienating their 9-year-old and blocking a relocation. Then his attorney waved a letter, signed by the judge last month, authorizing him to move the child 3 states away for a promotion. I felt my scalp prick. The letterhead was our court's from 2 chief judges ago. We retired that template years back. They'd uploaded it at 11:58 p.m. the night before, so it hit the docket before anyone blinked. He'd already emailed the school a copy, CC'd the principal, even scheduled movers. The judge glanced at me. "Can we verify?" I took the exhibit to my desk and pulled the order number. It didn't match our sequence. The QR code in the footer linked to a dead county website from 2017. Our seal was pixelated like someone dragged it from a Google image search. While counsel argued, I checked our signature log. Every judicial e-signature leaves a cryptographic hash. This one was a JPEG pasted over text. I walked the printout back in, set it beside the real seal, and the judge didn't need my speech, just the side-by-side. "Who created this?" she asked. Dad went pale, then blamed a paralegal mix-up. His attorney stared at the table like it might swallow him whole. Mom hadn't fought dirty. She'd shown up with school attendance, co-parenting app messages, and a calendar of FaceTime calls. He'd manufactured permission. The judge vacated the order, issued an immediate stay, and called in the bailiff. Suddenly, we weren't in family court anymore. A prosecutor slid into the front row like a storm cloud. Forgery, attempted custodial interference, interference with public records. The words stacked like bricks. Here's karma's twist. The person who taught me to spot fakes was my mentor, a clerk who retired last winter. She happened to be in the hallway dropping off cookies. When she peeked in and saw that antique letterhead, she laughed out loud. "He used the wrong chief judge," she whispered. "He's been retired for 5 years." The judge asked if Mom wanted to be heard. She didn't gloat. She asked the court to keep exchanges calm for their child. Final order: sole decision-making to Mom, supervised contact for Dad, criminal case pending, and a stern note to the school. Only trust orders verified through the court portal. As Dad signed his new visitation plan with shaking hands, he muttered that paperwork shouldn't matter this much. The judge answered without looking up. "Paperwork is where truth lives here." Story 7. I'm the kid, 14, old enough for my voice to count, young enough that grown-ups still spell out the hard words in front of me. My parents turned my life into a ping-pong table. He's unsafe. She's unstable. He feeds him junk. She's controlling. They both told the court I was being manipulated by the other home. Nobody asked what I wanted in a way that didn't feel like a trap. Then the guardian ad litem gave me a plain notebook and said, "Write anything you want. Draw your week. No one sees it until you hand it to me." I drew 2 houses. At Dad's, the fridge had sticky notes with protein counts. At Mom's, there were candles because the power got shut off twice. At Dad's, I had a new bike and a calendar with color-coded chores. At Mom's, I had 2 half-siblings who climbed into my bed when thunderstorms happened and a dog that snores like a tractor. One house looked better. One felt better. Mom told the judge she needed sole custody because Dad weaponized structure. Dad told the judge he needed it because Mom weaponized chaos. I wrote something I was scared to say. I want to live in the boring house. I meant Dad's, but not because of the smoothies. Because I could actually do homework without the TV blasting at midnight. Because my brother's asthma doesn't get triggered by incense. Because my sister's school uniform actually gets washed there. And then I drew a Saturday at Mom's, where we all made pancakes with too much vanilla and laughed so hard the dog sneezed. In chambers, the judge asked me why I picked the boring house. I told her it was because being bored lets your brain breathe, and I asked for something else, not to lose the noise entirely. I wanted every other weekend at Mom's, plus Wednesday dinners, but with a rule that adults don't whisper fight through me. The judge nodded like she'd been waiting to hear a sentence in a language she used to speak. Karma's twist wasn't punishment. It was consequence. The parent who spent a year calling me brainwashed had to listen while I explained the difference between calm and control. The parent who rolled eyes at therapy had to enroll with me so we could learn to keep the fun without the chaos. Final order: primary with Dad, generous time with Mom, no triangulation, co-parenting app only, and a line that made both of them blink. The child's preference is not a weapon. It is a compass. When we left, Dad didn't fist pump. He asked if I wanted to change anything about the schedule for soccer season. Mom handed me a bag of oranges for halftime and whispered, "I'll make the pancakes less vanilla." For the first time in 2 years, I believed them. Story 8. I'm the new wife. Yeah, stepmom. The role the internet loves to hate. He has a 10-year-old with his ex, and our case was a 2-year trench war. His ex told the court their child had a rare neurological condition that made school impossible without her constant presence. She waved a GoFundMe and a stack of specialist letters that were blurry photocopies. She demanded sole custody to manage complex care, plus child support based on Dad's imaginary salary. He's a diesel mechanic, the lawyer insisted. He was corporate management. I didn't take the stand to talk feelings. I brought spreadsheets. Bank statements showed Social Security disability deposits for the child, but identical ATM withdrawals at a casino 20 minutes later. The specialist letters? We subpoenaed the clinic. They'd never seen the child. The notary stamp belonged to her cousin, whose commission had expired last year. School records showed the kid was on the honor roll when actually attending. The absences lined up with casino loyalty points. Her attorney tried to paint me as controlling. I'm an accountant. Numbers don't care about my personality. We brought the pediatric neurologist who had actually evaluated the child. No neurological disorder, just migraines worsened by erratic sleep and energy drinks. The judge's eyebrows walked off her face when we showed the GoFundMe video where Mom whispered, "Don't smile," before hitting record. Karma's twist wasn't that she got caught. It's that the child got seen. The guardian ad litem asked the kid where they felt good. At Dad's, my head is quiet. The judge shifted legal custody, medical, educational decision-making to Dad, set child support based on real income, ordered payback of misused disability funds to a trust for the child, and referred the GoFundMe to the AG's office. Mom got parenting time, but without the homebound schooling she'd invented. After court, the kid took my hand and said, "Do I still get to dance class?" I'd hidden the pay-in-full receipt in my purse, just in case. The instructor sent a video the next week of our kid stumbling through a routine and laughing. The migraines dropped when bedtime got boring again. People think stepmoms want to replace moms. I wanted to replace bad math with truth. Story 9. I manage a youth soccer league and, lucky me, got dragged into a custody mess because of a sideline blow-up. Mom argued Dad was calm and community-minded and should have more time. Dad argued Mom was poisoning the team with drama. The court wanted neutral eyes. That was me. Clipboard guy with a whistle. Dad had polished affidavits from other parents about his leadership. He'd also sent me 6 emails threatening to take this club down after his son didn't start at striker. I keep everything. Mom showed up with orange slices and the kind of tired you can't Photoshop. Her story wasn't perfect. She'd missed 2 practices because of shift work. But she never yelled. Dad, he'd gotten a red card for screaming at a teenage referee. Then he sent me a link to a highlight reel he edited to prove the ref's bias. Here came karma via DJI. Our assistant coach had flown a practice drone to film drills. Parents knew. The kids loved it. It happened to capture the game where Dad was ejected. The field mics caught him telling his son, "If you don't score, you don't come over this week." You could hear the boy's breath hitch like a flat tire. Then Dad shoved the ref after a call. I filed an incident report that night and suspended him from sidelines. He appealed with a 1,200-word Facebook post about woke sports. In court, Dad's lawyer played the polished highlight reel with triumphant music. Mom's attorney played the raw drone footage, the shove, the threat, the teenager ref keeping his cool while a grown man puffed up like a bullfrog. The judge asked me if I'd ever banned a parent before. Twice, both for profanity. Never for contact until now. The order didn't just tweak weekends. The judge appointed a parenting coordinator, required Dad to complete an anger management program, barred him from attending games for 8 weeks, and prohibited him from using sports as leverage. Custody shifted to a 60-40 with Mom primary, exchanges at the police station lobby. After the hearing, the ref's mom, yes, he's 17, stopped me in the parking lot and asked if our league would let her son keep reffing after what happened. "He wants to," she said. "He says kids need to see someone keep his head." A month later, he reffed a final where our kid assisted a goal and looked up at the empty sideline. Then he grinned at the other side, Mom holding orange slices like a trophy. Story 10. I'm an airline gate agent. I don't wear a robe, I wear flats and a radio. But international custody cases find us at 6 a.m. Dad and a 7-year-old approached for a flight to Paris. Cute kid, tiny suitcase with stickers. Dad shoved a consent letter across the counter. Mom can't make it. Emergency work trip. The notary's stamp looked sleepy. different fonts on one line. I've seen worse fakes, but kids don't board on vibes. Per policy, I called security and the on-call Port Authority officer. We dialed the number listed for Mom. She answered, groggy and terrified. He's supposed to bring her to school. Within 20 minutes, 2 officers stood quietly beside my podium while Dad insisted the court knew. He waved a photocopied temporary order. The officer scanned the QR dead link again. We stalled the flight 10 minutes. Passengers groaned. I apologized and handed out water. The child asked if we'd still see the Eiffel Tower. I crouched to eye level. We'll make sure you fly when everyone says yes. Mom arrived breathless with a real court order and a stack of messages where Dad threatened to start fresh in France. The officer's face changed. Attempted international abduction is not a family squabble. It's a felony. Dad tried to spin. I was surprising her, the little girl whispered. Daddy said not to tell. My stomach dropped. Karma's twist played out later in court, but it started at my gate. The judge praised the airline for following policy. We get yelled at more than thanked. Granted Mom sole decision-making, restricted Dad to supervised visitation, ordered surrender of the child's passport, and added the kid to the State Department's Children's Passport Issuance Alert program. The court also mandated a therapeutic reunification plan because the girl still loves her dad, and love shouldn't be punished for his bad plan. When the hearing ended, Mom came back to the airport with her daughter. Not to flee, but to watch planes and eat pretzels. The kid pressed her forehead to the glass and said, "Can we go to Paris when Dad can come the right way?" Mom said yes. I printed them a fake boarding pass to Gate Happy and drew a tiny Eiffel Tower on it. The pilot walking by winked and said, "See you when the paperwork's real. In my job, the loudest sound is often the quiet click of a flight we don't board, and the life that doesn't get hijacked." Story 11. I'm a pediatric dentist. I don't do custody, I do cavities and stickers. But both parents subpoenaed me after 6 months of finger-pointing about their 8-year-old's teeth. Mom said Dad pumped the kid full of juice boxes and neglect trademark. Dad said Mom ignored medical advice and sent the child to school with caramel in a thermos. They wanted me to pick a villain. I brought charts. Our records showed something odd. The worst decay mapped to the maxillary incisors. Classic baby bottle caries. Except this kid was 8. I pulled photographic series from each visit. On Dad weeks, plaque scores dropped, fluoride varnish stayed put, and our night guard notes showed compliance. On Mom weeks, the child arrived with chalky white spots, early demineralization, and a slick perfumed sheen on the enamel. I asked, offhand, what toothpaste they used. The child whispered, "The sparkly crown gel," Mom beamed. In court, she produced the bottle. A cosmetic teeth brightener she'd ordered for pageants. The ingredient list included 10% hydrogen peroxide and pearlescent mica. She'd been rubbing it on nightly because smiles win scholarships. The judge went still. I explained how whitening agents on immature enamel can open the door to decay, and how sugar-free isn't acid-free. Then I showed intraoral photos of chemical burns on the gums that lined up with the glitter gel's applicator. Mom's lawyer argued I was taking sides. I held up the growth chart and attendance. Dad brought the child to every recall visit. Mom missed 2 and rescheduled once after a spray tan. The court asked the child gently about nighttime routine. He drew 2 pictures. At Dad's, a boring mouthguard. At Mom's, a little tiara and a bottle labeled Princess Smile. The guardian ad litem put a hand on the folder like a brake pedal. Karma's twist wasn't handcuffs, it was clarity. The judge banned cosmetic agents, ordered Mom into a parenting class focused on health decision-making, granted Dad medical decision-making authority, and kept physical custody roughly shared, with one sharp line: no pageants until a pediatric psychologist cleared the child's body image pressure. Mom cried that pageants are our bond. The child looked at me and asked if stickers counted as crowns. I gave him a sheet of gold stars and said we'd go for boring victories. 2 minutes, twice a day. The judge smiled. Boring wins custody more often than glitter. Story 12. I work trust and safety for a rideshare platform. My job is keeping strangers safe in cars at 2 a.m. I never expected a custody order to land in our abuse queue. Mom flagged Dad's account for endangering a minor. He counter-reported that she was weaponizing the app. Both attached screenshots that looked persuasive if you didn't know what you were looking at. We do. Vehicle telematics told a different story. Sudden brakes, high cornering forces, and rides beginning at 11:48 p.m., with a booster seat detected by our driver, Cam A, I installed wrong, then removed mid-trip. Our audio trigger, it flags loud distress words, caught, "I promise, one more stop then bed," followed by a child crying and a bar door clanging. Dad swore these were adults-only runs, and the kid was with Grandma. The GPS said the kid's school iPad, linked in our lost and found system, traveled the route with him. He'd left it on the floorboard. Find My is a narc. We escalated to legal with metadata and notified both parties. Court subpoena came fast. On the stand, Dad rhapsodized about bonding and teaching responsibility. The judge asked why a 7-year-old needed to visit 5 nightlife spots on a Tuesday. He said he couldn't afford childcare. Mom had offered to swap nights. He'd refused. We pulled the message thread from our in-app rideshare for Kids Pilot, which he wasn't eligible for. He'd tried to enroll anyway, lying about age. Karma's twist rolled in like a dashboard ding. Our safety analyst realized Dad had toggled Do Not Disturb and disabled crash detection on his phone during certain routes, the exact hours he was supposed to be off-duty parenting. He thought that made him invisible. It made a pattern. The judge suspended his parenting time for a month, pending a parenting class, and fitted him with a condition. No platform driving during his custodial hours, with surprise checks allowed. Mom didn't crow. She asked if he could still read bedtime on her nights by video. The judge wrote it in. We deactivated Dad for policy violations. He emailed to call me a homewrecker in a headset. I closed the case and walked to my own kid's room, where a dinosaur nightlight glowed. Safe rides aren't just about strangers. They're about the small person in your back seat while you chase tips that can wait until morning. Story 13. I was the maid of honor. Also the best friend who carried tissues and receipts. My friend was marrying a gentle teacher who'd waited through 2 years of custody hell with his ex. The ex had leveraged everything. Accusations, PTA whisper campaigns, anonymous tips. She showed up to the rehearsal dinner smiling like a headline, claiming she wanted peace for the sake of their daughter. We held our breath. During toasts, the ex tapped her glass. "A blessing," she said, then launched into a careful speech about co-parenting with maturity. She mentioned her new job, advocating for mothers, and that she hoped court would finally recognize who holds the emotional labor. The room nodded politely. I pressed my palms into my dress so I wouldn't stand up too soon. Because on my phone sat a 37-page PDF. 2 weeks earlier, I'd hired a court runner to pull a public file from a nearby county after a late-night tip. Inside, her prior custody case with a different father, sealed locally but not there. Finding of contempt for withholding visitation, a sanction for filing false CPS reports, and a transcript where a judge called her behavior terroristic. Our groom hadn't seen it. His lawyer hadn't found it. She'd changed her last name twice. When the ex finished, the officiant asked if anyone had housekeeping before tomorrow. I raised my hand, my voice shaking. "We need a notary." The groom's uncle was, incredibly, one. I slid the packet across the table to the groom and to the ex. She went wax white. The room shifted from champagne to oxygen mask. We didn't argue. We signed affidavits of receipt and had the uncle stamp them. The ex stumbled out. Karma had legs. At the final custody hearing 3 days later, the judge took judicial notice of the sister county's orders and asked why they had never been disclosed. The ex's attorney muttered about irrelevant history. The judge cut him off. Patterns are relevant. She expanded Dad's time to 50-50, appointed a parenting coordinator with teeth, and barred either party from filing CPS reports without counsel's certification. The ex's nonprofit announced on Instagram that, due to personal matters, she had resigned. At the wedding, the flower girl, his daughter, still sprinkled petals. During vows, she whispered to me, "Does this mean I don't have to choose houses anymore?" I told her she'd get to choose pajamas, which is the only choice a kid should make at bedtime. The kiss landed like a gavel. Done, and finally fair. Story 14. I'm a building superintendent in a cranky pre-war block where radiators bang and secrets leak through pipes. Mom and Dad fought over their 10-year-old like a chess piece. Dad said Mom's apartment was unsafe. Mom said he was classist about her old place. I don't testify unless the court makes me. They did. After the third 911 call for headaches, I brought the logbook. 6 carbon monoxide alarms in 3 months, each cleared by Mom opening windows before we arrived. Our HVAC tech had left notices recommending service. They hung on the door, unread. Twice, we found a foil-wrapped hookah glowing near the child's room and a gas stove propped on low to heat the kitchen. Mom cried that the landlord, me, refused to fix ancient things. The truth, we'd replaced what we could. What remained was use. The guardian ad litem asked the kid where he slept when the beeps started. "In the hallway," he said as if camping were normal. He liked Dad's house because the beeps are only the microwave. The judge asked me about our detectors. I told her we'd offered to hardwire and Mom refused due to aesthetic. Then Dad's lawyer produced a city inspector's report. Violations, fines, re-inspection dates missed because no one granted access. Someone had scrawled "come back later" across the notice. The signature matched Mom's Instagram calligraphy tutorials. Karma's twist came with a whistle. During a surprise home visit, the inspector's meter screamed. CO spiked when Mom lit scented charcoal. She explained she filmed ASMR Cozy Nights, and the beeping ruined the vibe. The judge's face didn't change, but the order did. Emergency transfer to a safer unit we offered, mandatory safety class, and a temporary shift. Dad primary until the re-inspection passed with a month of clean readings. Mom protested that he was weaponizing poverty. The judge answered softly, "Poverty is not a gas leak." This is a month later. Mom texted me a photo of a fresh detector, hardwired, no fairy lights taped around it. The kid ran into the lobby with a goldfish he'd won at a carnival and asked if Microwave House could be at both homes now. Re-inspection passed. Custody moved back to 50-50 with a clause. Any alarm equals immediate exchange and a check. Karma wasn't anti-Mom. It was anti-carbon monoxide. Story 15. I'm a court-certified ASL interpreter. Cases come at me in thick stacks with thin patience. This one was simple. Dad sought sole custody, arguing Mom refused to engage in their deaf son's therapy and alienated him using a language Dad couldn't access. Dad performed fluent grief in English. He'd even learned 5 signs and used them as props. Hello, sorry, Dad, home, love, chopped into sentences like subtitles. Mom arrived late, hands shaking, and signed so fast I had to ask her to slow. She was fluent. The child lit up when she walked in and started signing at warp speed about a Lego set and a nightmare with a whale in a bathtub. Dad stared like he'd wandered into a foreign film without captions. He had, by choice. The IEP showed years of recommendations for family sign training. He'd declined because it wasn't necessary if the child learned to speak. The speech therapy notes begged for sign at home. Dad's attorney queued up a video montage, Dad pointing at his mouth, child touching his throat, both struggling, then Dad hugging him dramatically. The judge asked to speak with the child, with me interpreting. The boy asked a question that split the room. If I talk with my hands, will Dad look at me? He had drawn 2 fathers, one with eyes on him, one with eyes on a phone. I translated. Dad flinched. Karma's twist wasn't cruelty. It was comprehension. The judge paused the hearing and scheduled a live demonstration. Each parent would communicate a simple 3-step recipe to the child. No voice, no props, just the mode each used at home. Mom signed pancake instructions with ease. The child giggled and stirred air. Dad tried to mouth words and sign his 5 signs. The child froze, then looked at me for rescue. I can't help during a parent-child exchange. The silence turned heavy. The order recognized Mom as primary for educational decision-making and set a custody schedule weighted to the parent who met the child in his language, pending Dad completing 120 hours of ASL classes with attendance verified, then ramping back to 50-50. Dad protested that he loved him more than enough words. The judge signed back, clumsy but brave. Learned love language child, I interpreted aloud. After court, Dad caught me in the hallway and asked if I could recommend a class that starts tonight. He was crying. The next month, I saw him at a Saturday community circle, fingers stumbling, eyes on his son's face. Finally. Karma wasn't a punishment. It was a syllabus. Overdue and exactly on time. Story 16. I'm an IT security analyst for a big school district. My life is SPF records, DKIM signatures, and telling principals not to click invoice.pdf.exe. I never expected my email headers to decide a custody case. Dad had filed a motion saying Mom was hostile to education. Attached were furious emails from the homeroom teacher. Your child reeks of neglect. Stop harassing me. I support Dad pursuing full custody. Our superintendent called me at 7:12 a.m., voice tight. If this is real, we've got a staff issue. If it's fake, we've got a felony. I pulled the raw source. The display name said the teacher. The from address even looked right at first glance. Just one swapped character in the domain, Arnail instead of male. The DKIM signature, non-existent. SPF, failed. The return path went to a burner Gmail, but the kicker was the message ID. It used a format our system hasn't generated since we migrated servers in 2022. Someone had copied an old email and Frankensteined it. We traced the sending IP to a coffee shop near the courthouse. The teacher swore she'd never written those lines. Her actual emails to both parents were patient to the point of sainthood. Mom was shaking. She'd already apologized to the teacher by text and offered to withdraw from the school to stop being a burden. Dad sat back, arms folded like he'd solved something. The judge asked me to explain without jargon. I told her email is like a letter with invisible stamps. These stamps didn't match our post office. She nodded. Then Mom's attorney slid over printouts from a co-parenting app. Dad had uploaded the teacher emails there, lacing them with captions. Even the school agrees. He'd also sent them to the PTA president, who, ironically, forwarded them to the real teacher asking if she was okay. That forward preserved the fake's full headers. Receipts on receipts. Dad's lawyer tried to blame a third-party advocate who managed communications. We subpoenaed the advocate's invoices. Zero. But Dad's laptop, the coffee shop IP matched his hotspot's MAC address the same afternoon. He'd sat in the corner pretending to do discovery while inventing an outrage. The judge's tone went granite. Sir, you forged statements from a public employee to influence custody. Karma's twist didn't end with a finger wag. The court granted Mom school year primary, Dad's time remained, but with a gag order about contacting school personnel outside the portal, and legal decision-making for education went to Mom. The judge sanctioned Dad for litigation misconduct and referred the forgery to the DA. I left my chain of custody packet on the clerk's desk and headed back to my office, where a principal was already asking if emojis in a subject line, "Break the firewall." Mom later sent the teacher a thank you card signed by the kid. Thank you for not being the mean email. The teacher pinned it above her desk like a small banner of sanity. Story 17. I'm 17, which in family court means I'm old enough to speak but still get called kiddo by bailiffs. My little brother is 12 and hates court shoes. Our parents have been at war since Fortnite needed updates. Every hearing is a new map. Mom says Dad is financially unstable. Dad says Mom is emotionally abusive. They both say I'm mature when I take their side and manipulated when I don't. I made a different plan. I filed a petition for kinship guardianship, not emancipation, not running away, just asking the judge to let me be responsible for my brother's weekday life until he hits high school. I get a stipend from my part-time job, honor roll since freshman year, and our grandma left us a small savings for school things that both parents kept borrowing, just until payday. I wanted the judge to move that money into a trust and let me sign permission slips without begging. Everyone laughed until they saw my exhibit list. Attendance records. I'm the one who signs him in. Asthma med logs. I'm the spacer enforcer. And a calendar of which adult missed which school events. I added screenshots of mom and dad texting me to relay messages they could have sent each other. My brother sat next to me drawing a dragon that breathed homework. The judge asked if I understood the weight. I told her I don't want to be the parent. I just want our life to stop being a tug-of-war rope. Dad's lawyer tried to smear my boyfriend. Joke's on him, I don't have time for one. Mom's lawyer said I was coached by outside influences. I was by YouTube videos on how to do FAFSA and by a school counselor who helped me draft the petition without telling me what to want. Karma's twist was watching two adults realize the mirror was facing them. The court appointed a guardian ad litem who interviewed my brother. He said he sleeps best at my apartment because the arguments are in the hallway and not inside. I rent a studio over a bakery. It smells like mornings. The judge didn't give me full guardianship. She gave me Tuesdays through Fridays during the school year, with legal authority for school and medical basics, held under a kinship order. Mom and Dad alternated weekends and split summers. They both protested until the judge said, "You will attend his school play as visitors. Your daughter will sit in the parent section." The courtroom went very quiet. The savings got locked into a trust with 2 signatures required, mine and the gal's. My brother asked if he could put a lock on our mail slot. I told him the key was groceries and bedtime. At graduation next spring, they'll call my name. I'll walk, but I'll be saving my loudest clap for a kid who learned dragon fire should only burn marshmallows and not families. The first night of the order, he fell asleep in 10 minutes flat, clutching a pencil like a sword. Peace is a plot twist that looks like algebra.